This old tea set is such worthless junk, Beatrice. Amanda's voice carried across my dining room with sharp certainty. Nobody uses formal china anymore. It's just taking up valuable cabinet space. I stood at my kitchen doorway watching her examine my grandmother's spode tea service, the delicate blue and white pattern catching afternoon light, the same set that had graced our table. For 3 generations of family celebration, Amanda lifted the sugar bowl dismissively, turning it over to check for maker's mark. See? No real value here, just sentimental clutter that needs clearing out. That tea set has been in our family for over 80 years, I said quietly, setting down my serving tray. My grandmother brought it from England when she immigrated in 1943. Exactly my point, Amanda replied, her voice taking on that patient tone she used when explaining obvious things. 80-year-old dishes from a thrift store or estate sale, not exactly heirloom quality. My son Gregory sat at the dining table, saying nothing to defend his mother, the same table where we'd use this tea service for every birthday, every holiday, every special occasion. Amanda continued her assessment, opening cabinets to examine storage space. We could fit so much more, practical dinnerware in here, modern sets that actually get used, instead of gathering dust. Gathering dust. The tea service I polished weekly, that I'd served countless guests, that held memories in every cup and saucer of family tradition. Gregory finally spoke, but not in my defense. Maybe Mom could keep just a few pieces for display, donate the rest to someone who'd actually appreciate antiques, as if 67 years of careful stewardship didn't constitute appreciation, as if love couldn't be measured in daily acts of preservation. Silence isn't surrender, it's strength, gathering its breath. I'm Beatrice. I'm 71 years old. I live in Oakwood, Michigan. This tea service has witnessed every important moment in 3 generations of family life. I've served tea to comfort grieving hearts, to celebrate new babies, to welcome new family members. Today, my daughter-in-law called my family treasure, worthless junk taking up space, while planning to dispose of 80 years of carefully preserved history in the dining room where every memory began. But what Amanda doesn't know is this. My grandmother's sugar bowl holds more than sweetener for afternoon tea. It holds a secret that will change everything about her assumption. If you've ever felt overlooked in your own home, you'll understand why this moment stayed with me. This house on Elm Street has sheltered 45 years of family tradition, every celebration centered around my grandmother's tea service, every difficult conversation softened by the ritual of proper tea. I learned the importance of ceremony when I was 12 years old, watching my grandmother prepare tea for neighbors facing hardship. Tea makes everything better, she'd say. It shows we care enough to do things properly. The morning sun still streams through my dining room windows, illuminating the cabinet where grandmother's tea service waits, ready to transform ordinary moments into occasions worth remembering. Each piece tells a story of careful immigration packing, of Sunday afternoon visits, of children learning proper manners through the gentle discipline of china handling rules. The sugar bowl sits at the center of every tea service arrangement, its lid fitting perfectly, despite decades of careful use, its blue flowers as vibrant as the day grandmother first unpacked it in America. Some truths arrive quietly but change everything. After Harold died 3 years ago, this tea service became even more precious, a tangible connection to family history that death couldn't break, a ritual that brought comfort. When grief felt overwhelming, Amanda sees only outdated formality, taking up modern storage space. She doesn't understand that ceremony creates meaning from mundane moments. That tradition connects us to people we've loved and lost. She wants me to modernize everything, replace family heirlooms with practical items that serve her vision of efficient living without sentimental complication. Gregory inherited his father's gentle nature, but not Harold's reverence for family history and tradition. He sees potential inconvenience where Harold saw legacy preservation. Amanda means well in her practical way. She sees inefficiencies that need streamlining, storage issues that require modern solutions, but she's never understood that something can't be measured in utility alone. My tea service isn't just dishes. It's the foundation of family ritual, the centerpiece of hospitality tradition that have shaped 3 generations of children into thoughtful adults. The suggestions started gently, like hairline cracks in precious china. Amanda would comment on my excessive dish collection during her weekly visits to assess my general household management. All these different sets must be exhausting to maintain. Maybe you should choose one for everyday use and donate the rest to charity. She'd point out storage inefficiency. These cabinets could hold so much more practical items if we reorganized around actually useful dinnerware. My actually useful dinnerware, each set chosen for specific purposes. Everyday dishes, holiday china, special occasion tea service, each filling different roles in the rhythm of family life. Paper plates might be easier, she'd suggest. No washing, no worry about breakage. Much more sensible for someone living alone who needs simple meal solutions. Paper plates for someone who'd spent 67 years learning the art of proper table setting, the importance of making every meal feel special. Dignity whispers what anger cannot. The real pressure began when she started researching values. I looked up your tea set online. These Depression-era pieces aren't worth much anymore. The market for formal china has completely collapsed. She'd show me auction results on her phone screen. See? Similar sets selling for next to nothing. You'd be lucky to get $20 for the whole collection. $20 for 80 years of family history, for countless moments made special by proper ceremony, for memories held in every carefully preserved piece. Gregory nodded along with her assessments, not from agreement, but from exhaustion with topic. That created family tension. Every time we gathered, a home remembers the hands that built it. Amanda began questioning my tea rituals. Do you really need to set the full service for one person? Wouldn't a simple mug be more practical for daily use? My tea rituals weren't about efficiency. They were about maintaining dignity in a world that increasingly valued speed over ceremony, convenience over connection. She suggested I simplify my entertaining. Casual gatherings are more comfortable. Nobody expects formal tea service. For modern social occasions, nobody expects, but some people appreciate the effort that says, you matter enough for my grandmother's best china, for traditions that honor your presence in my home. I began to understand then, this wasn't about practicality or storage efficiency. This was about Amanda's discomfort with formality she didn't understand, traditions she couldn't control. Through modern simplification, winter brought shorter days and longer discussions about downsizing my possession. Amanda's visits became more focused on convincing me to eliminate what she called unnecessary collections. She'd arrive with boxes and tissue paper. Today, we tackle the China situation, figure out what pieces have actual sentimental value and what can finally go. Actual sentimental value, as if she could determine which memories mattered most, which pieces of family history deserved preservation. These serving pieces especially take up enormous space. When do you ever use a formal gravy boat or tiered cake stand? Never mind that the gravy boat had served every Thanksgiving dinner for 45 years, that the cake stand had displayed birthday cakes for every grandchild, every celebration cake that marked family milestone. Amanda measured my china cabinet like someone planning major renovation. With some reorganization, this space could hold so much more practical storage, modern dinnerware that actually serves current lifestyle needs, as if maintaining family tradition wasn't a legitimate lifestyle choice, as if ceremony had no place in modern living arrangement. Some objects hold memories, not value. I started paying closer attention to Amanda's real motivation behind this anti-China campaign. She seemed less interested in my convenience than in eliminating things she couldn't understand or appreciate. My sugar bowl contained more than packets of sweetener. It held secrets my grandmother had preserved for future generations, information Amanda had never bothered to investigate or discover, including documentation about the tea services, true origins and value. That would surprise someone who'd dismissed it as Depression-era junk. I wasn't angry anymore. I was awake. Amanda thought she understood my grandmother's circumstances based on immigration stories. That sounded like poverty, rather than careful preservation of valuable family treasures. She had no idea what this tea service actually represented beyond simple household dishes, no understanding of the careful legacy my grandmother had created. Through patient preservation, some secrets wait quietly in sugar bowls that seem ordinary to casual observers, but hold extraordinary stories for those who know where to look. The crisis came on a cold February morning. Amanda arrived with Gregory and printed estimates from donation centers for tax deduction purposes. When you're ready to clear out the outdated China collection, tax deduction purposes, as if donating family heirloom was primarily about financial benefit rather than emotional loss of irreplaceable family history. Mom, we've been thinking about your situation, Gregory said, his voice gentle but determined. This house has too many breakable things for someone your age living alone. Breakable things, as if my 71 years had suddenly made me clumsy, despite handling these pieces successfully for decades, without major incidents. These senior communities have lovely dining rooms, Amanda added, professional staff, beautiful settings. You wouldn't need to maintain all these fragile collections that require constant care. Professional staff, instead of my own hands, serving tea in my own home, with china that held 3 generations of memories in every cup and saucer. What about my grandmother's tea service? I asked. The family history these pieces represent? We could keep one special piece, Gregory said. Maybe the teapot for display. Everything else could benefit someone who'd actually use them. One special piece. 80 years of family tradition, reduced to a single display item that would sit lonely, without its complete service, without the ceremony that gave it meaning. The market for formal china is completely dead, Amanda continued. Nobody our age wants the responsibility of maintaining fragile collections anymore. Stories like this remind us that clarity heals more than confrontation, the responsibility of maintaining, as if caring for beautiful things was burden rather than privilege, as if preserving family history was inconvenience rather than honor. I've never found it burdensome, I protested. These pieces bring me joy, connect me to my grandmother, to family traditions that matter. But they're not practical anymore, Amanda replied. Modern families need simpler solutions, less formal approaches to everyday living. Modern family, as if tradition had expiration date, as if ceremony became irrelevant when life got complicated, as if beauty couldn't coexist with practical living. I looked at my son's face, searching for the boy who'd learned proper manners, at my grandmother's tea table, who'd understood that some things were worth preserving simply because they were beautiful. That night I sat alone, with my grandmother's teacup, sipping chamomile tea, in the quiet dining room where so many memories had been created and cherished. Tomorrow I would show them what they'd missed in their hurry, to modernize my surrounding, what my grandmother's sugar bowl really contained, beyond sweetener. The next morning brought Amanda's return, with professional appraisers, just to confirm the value before we make final decisions about donation arrangements. Professional appraisers who would assess 80 years of family history in terms of market value rather than emotional significance, missing the real treasure hidden in plain sight. We'll start with the tea service, she announced. Get a baseline estimate for the whole collection, then decide what's worth keeping versus donating. That's when I decided the time had come to reveal what Amanda had overlooked in her rush to dispose of worthless junk. Calm truth cuts deeper than loud accusation. Before any appraisers examine anything, I said, I need to show you something. In the sugar bowl, that might change your perspective completely. I opened my china cabinet carefully and lifted out grandmother's sugar bowl, the piece Amanda had dismissed as Depression-era junk, without real value or significance. I removed the lid slowly, revealing not just sugar packet, but a small wrapped bundle hidden beneath the sweetener, a secret my grandmother had preserved for future generations. What is that? Amanda asked, her curiosity overcoming her impatience. With my sentimental attachments, inside the cloth wrapping lay documents that changed everything about the tea service's origin and true value. Some distances heal more than apology. The first document was a certificate from the Spode Pottery Company confirming that this tea service was a limited edition set created for the royal family before being released to select customers. This isn't Depression-era junk, I read aloud. This is a 1943 Royal Commission piece, one of only 50 sets ever created for civilian sale. Amanda stared at the certificate, understanding dawning about her assumption, about my grandmother's circumstance, about the tea service's actual worth. But there was more. A letter from my grandmother explaining how she'd acquired this particular set through her employment as a lady's maid in an English manor house. The family I served gave me this as a wedding gift, the letter continued. When I married your grandfather and moved to America, they said it represented the finest of English tradition, traveling to a new home. The letter also contained current appraisal information from 1960, when grandmother had the set evaluated for insurance purposes, showing a value that would be worth thousands today. She knew exactly what she had. I continued reading, but she valued it for family use rather than investment potential. She wanted it used, not locked away. Gregory arrived as I was showing the final document, a detailed provenance record tracing each piece's creation through the Spode factory record with authentication mark that proved its royal heritage. "This is all documented?" he asked quietly. "Everything," I replied, "including current market estimate." That would surprise someone. Who thought she was dealing with worthless junk? The professional appraisers weren't needed. The documentation was complete. The value was substantial. But more importantly, the family history was intact in every carefully preserved piece. This wasn't about money or market value. This was about respect for family legacy, for traditions worth preserving, for the wisdom of women who understood that some things transcend financial measurement. The silence that followed felt different from previous family discussion, this time weighted with respect rather than dismissal, with wonder rather than assumptions about worthless collection. Amanda spoke first, her voice uncertain. "Beatrice, I had no idea about any of this history or the tea service's actual value. My grandmother never boasted," I replied gently. "She believed beautiful things should be used and appreciated rather than displayed as investment objects." Gregory looked at the documentation, understanding finally dawning about his great-grandmother's wisdom in preserving something precious while using it daily. "She used royal china for everyday tea?" he asked quietly. "She believed we were all worthy of beautiful things," I said, "that children should learn to handle precious objects with care and respect." We spent the next hour talking honestly about assumptions and heritage, about the difference between market value and family significance, about preserving tradition while adapting to modern life. Amanda apologized for dismissing the tea service as worthless clutter, for assuming my grandmother had been poor immigrant with no valuable possession. "I can see now how precious it is," she said, "not just financially, but as family connection to your grandmother's wisdom and generosity. Some objects hold memories, not value." We talked about going forward differently, about researching before judging, about understanding that collection can represent family expertise rather than just accumulation. "I want to learn the proper way to use tea service," Amanda said. "Would you teach me the ceremonies your grandmother passed down to you?" "And I want to document this," Gregory added. "Create a record of great-grandmother's story and the tea service's journey to our family." The sugar bowl returned to its place in the complete tea service, no longer hiding secrets, but holding them safely for future generations to discover and appreciate. Over the following months, our relationships grew stronger, like properly brewed tea. Amanda started visiting to learn, rather than to organize, about proper tea ceremony and family tradition. Gregory brought his children regularly to practice careful handling of precious things, to learn that beauty requires gentle attention and respectful care. "Great-great-grandmother's teacups are like magic dishes," my granddaughter said. "They make regular tea taste like princess tea because they're so special." Christmas that year felt like celebration rather than obligation. Amanda brought me a beautiful tea cozy, hand-knitted by a local artisan to keep your grandmother's teapot warm during service. Gregory's gift was a display cabinet with proper lighting and locks to protect the tea service while keeping it accessible for special occasions. If this story touched something familiar, may your next chapter be softer than the last. I learned important lessons about heritage and family assumptions, about the value of preservation over profit, about respect for collection that represent family wisdom. Your family treasures matter, regardless of others' opinion. Your responsibility to preserve heritage should be honored, not questioned. Your right to maintain tradition deserves support and understanding. Real love honors different priorities about what's worth preserving. Real care recognizes significance beyond market assessment. Real protection preserves legacy rather than eliminating them for convenience. Age brings stewardship, not burden. Gray hair represents accumulated wisdom about what truly matters, and sometimes the most valuable gifts are those preserved by hands that understood. Beauty belongs in daily life. The sugar bowl still sits At the center of my grandmother's tea service, no longer hiding secrets, but holding sweetness for family ceremony that connect us across generations of careful love.